Happy Friday, everyone. But more importantly, a special happy 4th of July to all the patriotic Americans out there, not only those that watch the channel, but everyone in general. And that goes actually, to be frank, to everyone. It's a very special day out there, the independence of the U.S. Not to get into a big history lesson. It is a very important day. And that doesn't mean you don't have to agree or that you can disagree with certain things in history or current policies. The overall idea of what the U.S. is, that independence movement of what created this world superpower, those traditions, that culture, that integrity, that type of focus on pillars of what works really for Western civilization, those should be respected and honored. And once again, it doesn't mean you have to agree with everything, but it is, I think, a good time for people to focus on what has worked in the past and what might work in the future and celebrate that. It's a big day, and especially whenever people feel such a great divide. So I'm very thrilled to pass along that big, happy 4th of July to people. And once again, I think it's something that we all can celebrate a little bit. And let's watch a little bit of a pump-up video. There's tons of them out there, but let's put that out there for our American friends.
We got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
So just a quick little thing. They've got tons of these ones, and I have to admit, I'm a big fan of some of the things that people can edit and put together that are exceptionally patriotic, and I guess obviously one would say, propaganda as well. But you know what? I prefer positive propaganda than negative one. So it's nice to see patriotism that's justified and out there, and it's a good thing. Now, also today marks the beginning of Stampede, hence the cowboy outfit. And here, this is an amazing time for Alberta, just in general, in history, and what's happening here as well, with those that view, once again, have certain beliefs about independence and freedom of choice and freedom of decisions, and that people should be able to make their own decisions on certain things. All those types of things. Lots of things happening there in that regard. But Stampede is a big, huge event. It typically brings in about 1 million visitors, and it is, like they call it, the greatest show on earth. It is a significant event, and it's a lot of fun for the whole family. There's a little bit of something for everyone. There is, of course, all the country shows, and I'm certainly going to be going to one on Sunday. A great band called Midland, but there's also lots of rap and stuff like that as well. So they try to make something available to everybody, and it is pretty huge. So a little bit of something for like family fun, like with like corgi races and pig races and whatnot, lots of animals and agribusiness and things that you can see, as well as the rodeo, all the way up to the absolutely get pissed drunk events that can happen to basically shut the city down for a week. So a ton of fun here, a little bit of something for everyone. I remember when I first came here, the big thing that hit me were the Stampede breakfasts everywhere. You can get a breakfast pretty much every day of the week for the next 10 days, free. Now, the quality of the pancakes and the cooking of them, that'll be determined depending on location. But it's a ton of fun. There's people out and about, and we're going to have a good weather for it. So on that note, once again, it's a big fun time here now in Alberta for the next 10 days. Hard to get a lot of work done, but listen, in mining in our sector, the summer is pretty slow anyway. So we might as well enjoy this day for celebrating with our American friends, as well as the Stampede, and let's get at it and have some fun and talk about some positive things that are leaping forward here in the mining space. I'm going to take these headphones off here. You see that IMARC, which is the International Mining and Resource Conference here. I pulled up a really interesting article they put out here in regards to autonomy in action. And this talks a lot about this automation and robotics frontier that we're leading into. And it's always been a quiet joke that technology is lagging in the mining sector by about 30 years. And it's certainly, in some ways, it is a little bit archaic, certainly as regards to permitting and working with government and whatnot. It is way back, back in time. But I'm going to get to that. But there is a big focus right now on automation, and pulling this in together with efficiencies, with sustainability and safety and whatnot. And this autonomy movement is very interesting because it is directly what we're talking about is robotics. And it is the same as whether you're talking about robotics regarding warehouses and future industrialization of the U.S. That bringing jobs back to the U.S. or industrialization isn't as much about people working on a factory line. We've mentioned this a number of times. It is about embracing massive robotics movement and having machines build machines, but also build all the things that we're using. We've talked about that a fair amount on the channel, and it's no different in mining. We're seeing autonomous haulage systems already in play. These were used obviously on your big scale, your Rio Tintos, your BHP. They were, they would have like remote operational hubs, and they were able to really rely on fewer staff, a lot of automation, and a lot of top tier technology. But that is spreading out, and there is that huge focus on, especially in the rest of the world, the ESG framework. I would argue it's of almost zero relevance in Canada because we are so, I hate the word progressive, but we're so far forward. I guess progressive is the word in regards to our environmental standards, our ESG, so much so that we actually have to cut it back quite a bit. We've actually pushed things to a social aspect of such a quality that you can't get anything done. And that is, it's not, I'm not saying that's an easy job. It's a very, very challenging job in order to meet all of these stakeholders, whether real or imagined, or being the environment, which is the stakeholder. It's not, a physical person, but it's certainly there, as well as different, investors and, groups that are fighting for whatever cause that they're fighting for. It's important to see that this is underway and that automation is hitting mining. And that's a big deal because there is safety concerns. Once again, not as much in your major producers. When you see, signs, of people getting hurt and lots of harm, it's generally speaking, I'm saying generally, not all cases, but it's mostly these artisanal mines. Once again, a progressive term, which is for illegal mines, ones where people are, extremely poor in extremely poor countries that, quite frankly, they've got bigger concerns than worrying about the safety of their own person, which is a terrible thing to say. But that's the reality of life. And they'll enter into adits and they'll go into sites that are long shut down, are dangerous, are fenced in, could also be properties of a major that they are trying to keep people out, but they can't. That is where you see a lot of injury and a lot of, there's no work, OSHA or workplace safety there. And in fact, I've spoken with people that have worked with the UN in regards to trying to hand out gloves or give free kind of courses, even to artisanal miners, so that they're not handling chemicals with their hands. They're not handling mercury with their hands. But even with all the education, they just, quite frankly, from what they've conveyed to me, is that they just say, I've got bigger concerns than to wear some gloves. Me going to find gloves to do this. I have to worry about today getting money to get food on the table. I don't know if I'll be around in 3 months, 6 months, 2 years. And that type of mindset is very different than the type of mindset where we have the luxury of thinking of bigger, more tertiary concerns, certainly beyond our own household too. We're concerned about out here on the rims of things. And that's tough because the further you get to mass bureaucracy, UN level, ESG, WEF type people, the further away they are from that poverty, that person who doesn't have that luxury. And that doesn't mean it shouldn't get done. Just means that mindset and that conversation is very different. And I think it's important for us to remember that that exists out there. Just because we're used to a certain lifestyle here and we would like mining to be done in a certain way, it may not be able to be done that way in all places. But we can certainly do our best to automate and to bring that automation even into more challenging zones and areas, as well as to create these operational hubs with the technology that's out there nowadays. I mean, if you look at companies like Anduril, what they're able to do with operational hubs as far as defense, it's absolutely staggering. So there's going to be a revolution in technology that's already underway, but that's going to be sped up, especially when robotics comes into play when you're dealing with mining. And that's very exciting. And I wanted to kind of give a shout out to Silvercorp because they are really pushing quite well here. It's you call it a silent revolution in China because this is a very underappreciated story, and it is a clean mining story. And it's from Silvercorp, which they recently deployed 28 electric heavy-duty trucks at their Ying mining district in China. This replaced their diesel with electric at scale. And this isn't just a symbolic gesture. This is significant. It's going to reduce their emissions by an estimated 800 tons of carbon emissions annually. That's huge. So that's not only just air quality in China, which is very, very important. Never mind that we know that whatever happens in China does affect the rest of the world. I mean, that's how the world works. A bird fluttering its feathers in Japan could affect a tsunami in Vancouver. It's that kind of notion of philosophy that I think some people are familiar with. So this isn't just a gesture; it's a big brand positioning that kind of went unknown and unheard of. But it is showing that this can be done, and it's going to be done. And although the cost is significant, it is quite a bit of a cost to go all electric like that, because the power required, the density in electric is nothing compared to the energy density in diesel. It's a significant cost. And once again, that's not just a gesture. That's a big amount of emissions cut back for this operations here, and that's very cool because not only does it show it can be done, is that this is a sneak peek into the future, and it helps to answer a lot of these questions and concerns that people that don't like the idea of mining and can't get around to really embracing it, even though they think, well, they don't want to have to admit that they need it. This is a great way to show that, listen, they're seriously taking big steps into making this as precision and as clean and sustainable as humanly possible. So this, I think there's 100 fully autonomous 90-ton electric trucks here at Yimin, the open pit mine in Inner Mongolia as well. So this is the largest autonomous electric mining fleet in Inner Mongolia, and it's battery powered, 464 kilowatt LFP, lithium iron phosphate battery packs, and they have a 6-minute swap capability. They're using 5G advanced networks, enabling their vehicles to cloud decision making, as well as their emission costs of 48,000 tons of carbon emissions per year, comparable to about 10,000 cars, pulling 10,000 cars off the road. So that's huge, and that's great. And this kind of and Silvercorp should be celebrated for that. And I want to kind of mix that in with the idea of nouveau monde graphite, nouveau monde graphene. Graphite, sorry. Nouveau Monde was a company we actually did well in a number of years ago, and it had a big run. And it basically followed that Lassonde curve. It's also gotten really kicked on lately, and I'm not saying that that's a stock someone should look into or not look into. We're going to do a little bit more in depth into it because it came across my radar when we thought about Silvercorp here, because I knew that the goal for this mine in Quebec for graphite, which is critical for any of this transition at all to happen, was that it was going to be all electric and it was looking to be autonomous step by step. And that is still the idea of this project. But before we jump into that, I wanted to kind of tie in how some of this is getting done as well, and also to the look at Bill C-5 and the Liberals' One Canadian Economy, because there's lots of good in there. We've touched on that a few times, is that this would put a lot of power into the federal government's hands. And in some ways, if you look at the states, that's a good thing, because they are active and they're very open. And I think everyone would agree they're going to want projects done. They're going to push them through. And they're focused. They've kind of said what the national interest is and their focus. And it looks like Canada is also doing something similar. But here's the problem, is that we don't know what that actually means in Canada, because if you pass all the power for projects to be federal, that can also mean that they'll kill projects all along the way. And we'll get into some of the negatives here in a second, but this could work well for a Nouveau Monde because they're in Quebec, and Quebec's a very energy transition focused province. It's certainly, as far as a Liberal government, a very good place to work to be in order to get anything done with the government. If you've got a Liberal government and you're in Quebec, it's a very, very positive thing. Likely, probably expedited approvals. It is the type of project that would technically fall under a national interest category, and it is nearer term. Now, of course, this project has other problems and whatnot that I'm not going to get into right now, but it could be one that would certainly meet a lot of criteria, and certainly it would hit that ESG number. Like this would be a good one that Carney and Liberals would look at and go, even if it's challenging and maybe not the most economic deposit, or could have economic problems, they might support it because of the fact that it is going to be sustainable. It's going to be electric. It's going to be autonomous. And that could be a huge win. And once again, that's a win. I mean, if we get some minds open and we get things going, that's a win for Canada. It's just, how are we going to go about doing it? Now, I know there were people that said, well, there could be concerns that this will go around Indigenous leaders and special interest groups, that it will bypass, the NGOs and the environmental groups that are funded and make a living off of challenging any kind of growth of anything. And that, I think, is a great thing. We have too much of that already. There's no way that a Canadian government, either side, is not going to be very, very concerned about their resources and about their country as a whole, as far as the environment is concerned. Once again, my position is we need to streamline that and make it far much more accessible, rather than let's add another layer of federal bureaucracy. But the problem is that that's what very well could happen. This could easily bring up and actually could hurt any kind of investment into Canada, even more so, because this could create a constitutional tug of war in regards to how capital will be allocated. So this could actually delay processes more than anything else. And once again, it all depends on what, not the bill itself, but what are the details? What are they actually going to fund? Are they going to fund anything? Because we've heard this before, where they say, oh, we're going to put a critical metals strategy together, and it goes into research, goes into papers, doesn't actually go into actual mining, it doesn't go towards actually achieving anything. So it will be a big thing to see, what do they actually mean by any of this? And if it was that they had federal oversight in order to basically encourage projects to get done and not have the ability to stop any, I'd be interested in that. But if it is that they have the ability to centralize all permitting and it has to go through them, that could end up being a worse disaster than we're in already, because we are not sure which Carney's showing up. We don't know if it's the WF UN guy who will just go and say, well, let's go find some projects that Brookfield would be interested in and may fund, and we'll go from there. And there we go, which will certainly help that elite level of people and would bring some revenue into Canada for sure. But certainly would not mean that we'd be maximizing the benefit that we have here in Canada. So once again, if this is driven by the banker, Carney, and that he really wants to see Canada flourish, and that we start building our economy and start building out all the capabilities we have, because once again, if we have access to not only hydro, to battery energy storage, to all the critical metals, to nuclear, which obviously we have with Cameco and Westinghouse, all the uranium that we have access to as well, and we start funding all that energy, as well as all the obvious natural gas, LNG that we'll be shipping out, and crude oil, we could be having data centers abundant here, We could be doing so much in regards to robotics and so much in regards to technology. It would be incredible. But once again, it all depends. Are they going to crowd out private capital? Are they going to make it so that other countries aren't interested in investing in Canada because they'll look and see, oh my God, they've centralized all of the permitting and they've actually made it worse? Or it has to hit their specific standard of what they feel ESG is. And once again, this is, it's a fine line. It's very challenging. I'm not saying it's an easy job to determine what's going to fit best, but it's a wait and see. It's a wait and see. So there are concerns over this, and I wanted to bring them up because in some essences, it looks like, oh, this is great. We're going to streamline the process. Permitting will be faster. It's going to go great. No, it could mean that. It could also mean that permitting gets twice as long, and that if the project isn't deemed interesting to the Liberal Party, it won't get done. And more central planning, if anyone follows economics, is worse. That does more harm to a country than less. If you really believed in your people and in your economy, you let the free market decide. It'll tell you the answer. The people will tell you. If you try to force and plan, it rarely ever works out. I would say almost never does it ever work out. And certainly we haven't seen a case of long-term in which it does. And I don't mean that you don't have some sort of plan, but I mean the socialist, extreme left planned economy idea that could happen. But once again, we don't know which carny is going to show up. So I'm still hopeful because there has to be a point at which there is the recognition that Canada is vital. And, the U.S. recognizes it. I mean, Trump, trolls saying that, maybe we should join. I don't think he's serious. And I don't think many serious people actually think that he thinks that either. But he is obviously very interested in our natural resources, as anybody should. And basically, if we're not going to use them, someone should, because sitting in the ground doing nothing is doing absolutely nothing for climate change or for carbon emissions or for whatever cause that you're championing, whether it's economic or whether it's environmental. If we just let it sit in the ground and we just avoid doing anything with it, the rest of the world will look elsewhere. And that'll be more costly to go into more dangerous areas or more challenging areas to build up for infrastructure, whereas Canada can do it. And when we see this autonomous movement, this movement towards electric vehicles, it's a good sign to people to show that, listen, we need this. And the mining sector is standing up and saying, we're on board with a lot of what you're saying, the sustainability. We're going to do this things as well as we can in order to make it precision drilling, in order to get these out of the ground properly, but also they come with bonds on the back end to ensure that those sites get cleaned up. So listen, there's a lot going on here. But we're sitting on that teetering point, and that teetering point isn't little. It's not a tiny thing, because, we'll see if the US version of a switch from we're going to put money into the economy via private investment, where we're going to get the people to drive this, or if you say you take a European or Canadian, which is Canada doesn't even invest in itself. But if you take a European one where we say we're going to do a planned economy where we force money into certain areas and see if it works, even whenever the States has tried that with solar or solar charging centers or anything, they've been desperate failures. And that could be many reasons, which too long to get into here. But generally speaking, I think most people know in finance that if you give all the money to a government in order to get a project done, probably not going to get done. It probably won't. But that being said, one could easily argue, and I would rightfully say so, you would never have any of the electric vehicles on the road like Tesla unless they were given massive amounts of funding at the beginning. Now, Tesla did pay back that money pretty quickly, but there is a role for the government to encourage and to stabilize and to really push innovation. So, once again, I'm not saying there isn't a place for it, but it's very different to give to send capital flows and encourage an industry and let it go on its own, rather than do a planned, enforced with policy and regulation over and over and over. In any event, you've heard me talk about this a million times, far too much. because we're going to wrap this up here, I want to put out a special note too, as well as we're getting a lot of people on our Substack. The Substack is there, the Market Mindset. And we have a free service, which I try to blog at least 3 times a week on a lot of these same ideas and news out there that's specifically energy related. But also we have a paid one in which we talk about a lot of companies that I don't cover as much openly here. And some of them have done exceedingly well in the last year. And, we want to share that with people. So we're offering right now, I think it's $3.99 for the next 3 months. We're offering, so if people want to jump in and want to see some of those stocks that have done well, some of the stocks that we're looking at as well moving forward beyond some of the obvious ones, that I always like to talk about, like Goliath. But there's lots of other ones that have been doing very well and that people should know about and know that we're buying. So make sure you check that out. It's $3.99. Try it out for 3 months. How hard is that? And once again, that's our 4th of July Stampede special. We're going to have it on for at least 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. But basically till the end of Stampede. And, we would love to have you on there. And that's really where more of the engagement happens as well. So make sure you join up, check it out, give me your thoughts, and listen, have a great weekend here. Maybe we'll talk to you during the week. There's lots happening. It's Stampede. Maybe we'll do a couple live things down there. Who knows? But anyways, everyone, enjoy July. It's a great month, and we'll talk to you real soon.